Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first town hall meeting. Oh, here comes Joe. Great. This town hall meeting is to introduce, as you've heard already a couple of times at club meetings, introduce the opportunity that was presented to us by Calgary Reads. So today, Stacy and Steve will be presenting on behalf of Calgary Reads and answering any questions that you have about the opportunity of taking on the big book sale, which is happening right now at the Calgary Curling Club. Randy is our incoming Director of Community Services, and he'll address how this could potentially fit into our club structure and our club finances and how we operate. So Stacy brought this wonderful opportunity to us. I don't know, what was it, just 2 months ago, right, Stacy? And it sounded really exciting because, of course, we know that we need to engage our members in something more than just club meetings and committee meetings and writing checks. And of course, this is aligned with one of Rotary's areas of focus. The area of focus in particular is called Basic Education and Literacy. And of course, this is all about early childhood literacy. And as I mentioned in the club meeting yesterday, early childhood literacy is a key variable in determining a person's ability to find a job, keep a job, and be an informed person in this society and make decisions based on what they read as opposed to what they just hear. So we feel that it also perhaps even touches on the area of focus of peace. So this is so aligned with what we do at Rotary that we felt that this would be an opportunity for our club to have a closer look and determine whether we want to jump in or not. There are two other aspects. One is there are other Rotary clubs who are ready, willing, and able to jump in. We are the first one chosen to examine this and have a look at it. And of course, you'll get all the details today. And the other aspect is that Calgary Reads will be making announcements shortly about the seed partner, and Stacy will give you all of that information. So thank you so much for coming today and hearing this. I would ask that when you have a question, if you could use the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and choose raise hand. What that will do is, in the event that there are more people who jump in, when you raise your hand, your window automatically goes to the upper left-hand corner of my screen, and I will see you and recognize you, and then you can go ahead and ask your question. So are there any questions before we get started on this? Okay, seeing none, I'm now going to pass on the mic to Stacy, and she might share her screen because she's got some interesting information to show. And take it away, Stacy. Tell us more about the big book sale.
Steve, did you want to say anything beforehand, or?
No, Stacy, I thought maybe I would chime in on kind of after you give your presentation on why this fits and why I think it fits and why I support it.
Okay, let me be sure. My apologies to those of you who have already seen this presentation. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, indeed. It's not in presentation mode, but oh, there we go. Perfect. Great.
Okay, perfect. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about what or who is Calgary Reads. And my apologies for people who don't know, but essentially we've been operating for 22 years in Calgary. Our work focuses on children from birth to age 8, all with the goal of making sure that children achieve grade 3 reading, which is a very short period of time, but goes on for the rest of their life to have huge impact. We are in this interesting time of change, and lots of people are asking me, why is Calgary Reads going away? Because we have been around serving our community for a long time. The pandemic has escalated the problem, and I'm going to give you very quickly some statistics about what's going on in childhood literacy and why this is more urgent than ever before. And because it's more urgent, our sort of little engine that could organization that has been plugging away at this forever just cannot meet the need. And sometimes to draw attention to the urgency of the need, you have to, I don't know, mess with the system a little bit. And by getting out of the system, we have more freedom to advocate for childhood literacy than we did when we partner with universities and schools to need access to children. So this is definitely a poverty issue, but it is not just low-income children who are not coming to reading in the timely manner. But for children growing up in low-income homes, they're hearing millions and millions of fewer words. And this word poverty that they experience is what is compounding their challenges once they get to school. The vocabulary of a 3-year-old predicts the 6-year-old's ability to read, and the 6-year-old's ability to come to reading in grade 1 determines what happens in grade 3 when they are expected to know how to read, to then go on to use reading to learn about everything else that they would be exposed to. And so these ages are really critical to follow. Since the pandemic, and this is research out of Alberta from the All Our Families study, primarily these families come from Calgary. It's not very often that we have such comprehensive local Canadian data. Many families have lost income or they've seen a decline, many mothers in particular, and the education of a mother is the best indicator of a child's success. So when you have mothers stressed, and we know that women have really been hardly hit within the pandemic, this plays out in the well-being of their children. Many mothers and fathers and grandparents and the whole community are concerned about children's moods, their behavior. These little babies that have been born in the pandemic, they're not being exposed to other people, so they don't know how to socialize. If you listen to CBC this morning, they were talking about all the dogs that are being abandoned. And they, as dogs, had not been socialized. Well, children aren't being socialized to the degree either, because families have been afraid to introduce other people into their lives because they're not part of their cohort. And 80% of families are really stressed with all the learning loss, kids in and out of school, childcare issues. So we have a bit of a storm in the making going on. And this researcher out of the University of Alberta says it's particularly hitting those students that are now almost a year behind in reading, and they really need very focused attention. In Canada, for a long time, literacy has been really bleak, and most people don't believe these statistics, but a quarter of kids have no books in their home, which is why we have a book bank, which is why we sell children's books at the book sale for $2. And for the last day of the sale, all the books are free because we really need to get books into children's homes. Far too many children show up at school already delayed. They will not catch up. And 40% of our youth are not coming to literacy in the way that they need to. And literacy is a big part of the puzzle that we all want to try to strive for to improve the economy on the other side of the pandemic. And as I recommended to some people before, if you want to really understand the context of what's happening in our society and in our country, this report by Deloitte really is a powerful piece of research that gives a sense of the context that we are living in. At Calgary Reads, we've always had a hard time helping people invest in prevention. As a province, we really like to invest once there is a problem instead of trying to avoid the problem. So we were afraid on the other side of the pandemic with food insecurity, mental health, all of these issues presenting themselves, that our charity was going to struggle. and be put into an even more competitive landscape. And for some reason, most people do not understand that lack of education and low literacy levels is a root cause to all the other social ills. And we need to advocate harder and with louder and more powerful voices, which is why we're saying, okay, we've done what we could. We have strongly believed that children have the right to read. We have spent 22 years helping the community get involved, championing where they can, volunteering in a multitude of ways. And now it's time to expand this village even further. These are all the partners and the people that we've worked with. You can see that by connecting with Calgary Reads, you suddenly impact the future for many, many, many Calgary organizations. And I'll show you another slide with their logos and things coming up. So we call this our Dandelion Strategy. We see ourselves as those bright yellow flowers. Calgary Reads has always been known for its bright, bold brand. And I like to tease that, well, and eventually you got to go to seed, and you need to know when is it time to let go, to release, and when does somebody bigger with more resources need to pick up the work that you incubated so that more and more children can be served. So this whole strategy of divesting of our assets and then moving into dissolution of the charity is based on a big wish that more people will care than ever before, and that stronger organizations will pick up their piece of all of this. We have 7 amazing partners that were in conversation, varying levels of conversation. Most of these partners, we've already signed agreements, and we are in the process of transferring assets and including our staff. So all of our people follow the programs that they have been a part of. I won't go into the detail of all of these partners, but to say that you would be in good company. These are amazing organizations which with much more strength than Calgary Reads ever has. And I'm very proud of the people who are wanting to carry on our legacy. You know that the book sale is on, and thank you to all those people who have made an effort to come down and check it out. When you offer a book sale to people, no one, I think, really imagines the magnitude of this book sale. You think of a little farmer's market, you know, with a couple hundred books being sold across a table. And this is anything but that. And I'm so grateful for all the people that came. When we submitted the proposal to the board, it actually has 3 components that I think this is the part to really spend time talking about in the town hall. So there is the book sale, which historically has happened every May. And this is because of the curling club. So as soon as the ice comes out, we're able to have the sale before the staff go on to be unemployed for the summer. This also involves the book bank, and the book bank is a year-round operation where we collect children's books all year round, and we distribute these books out through many, many organizations. And it's my hope that the people who want to be involved in volunteering for the book sale, in many cases, it's some of the same people who, you know, in February, when they're looking for something to do, they know the book sale isn't quite happening, but they can go and still be getting books into the hands of children by volunteering for the book bank. Because the book bank and the Little Red Reading House are going to the university, we are looking for volunteers who, just like people volunteer for the food bank year round, we need book bank support year round. We have lots of volunteers for this as well, but I do think it offers that service before self opportunity 12 months out of the year, and not just for the concentrated time in May. And then we have asked that an early literacy fund be established so that the proceeds of the sale, which as of last night are $385,000 so far for this year, and we're not quite done. So we're probably going to see an over 400,000 proceeds of sale, that these would go into a fund, because the people who donate their books and volunteer their time are doing so in support of the next generation of readers. I feel like the cause is integral to the investment of the funds back into the community. These are all the organizations right now that we have established reading places we regularly deliver books to. And what an amazing group of partners that circle around Calgary Reads to ensure that their children and families have access and the education that they need to kind of get out of some of these cycles of poverty that they're on. This is just a fun way of trying to depict kind of how I see these things all working together. We need the Dandelion to be deeply rooted in community, to continue to have the community volunteers show up to make this sale happen. It's 1,200 people strong, about 2,500 shifts. We have a committee of 10 that are the leadership to this machine right now. All of the Rotary clubs that we have spoken with are interested. So I see this as a beautiful inter-club opportunity. And in an ideal world, we would offer seed grants, which would be small, similar to small donations. And then these collaborative literacy investments, which I'm playing with, calling them bud grants, off of buddies working together to try to do things. And the one thing that we have not been able to give away, if you will, is the spirit and the essence and the culture and the movement making that we have spent 2 decades trying to inspire in community. So we have a group of amazing volunteers who every year are hoping to piggyback off of the May season of the book sale to continue to do some marketing and messaging. And so that every time a person sees a dandelion, they very consciously think about, have I read to my child? Am I making sure that I'm giving my time to this important cause? And this will be interesting to see how it plays out. So there you have, we are letting go and bursting forth, and we are super hopeful and very excited about the possibility of Rotary taking on this venture.
Okay, so Steve, did you want to add to
Sure.
that, please? And then we'll go to Randy, and then we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, I would just, I think Rotary and Calgary Reads have had a relationship that goes back probably to the beginning of Calgary Reads, I guess 22 years ago, as Stacy indicated. I think our stay in school program, original stay in school program, had volunteer readers at Valley View and Holy Cross schools, which included, I know, Bill and Maggie Redmond and my wife Margie and many other Rotarians. And around the time that Calgary Reads began, those volunteer readers transitioned over to Calgary Reads. And I know for sure Maggie has been involved, I think, on an ongoing basis ever since. So and through major donations, we've also had a really close relationship with Calgary Reads. And ever since I've been on major donations, we've had a number of grant applications, which we have honored, and I think they've been excellent. We had created a stronger partnership a few years ago. I was probably the primary contact for some of that, and so Stacy invited me to be a champion, the community champion for Calgary Reads, which wasn't very onerous, and it certainly, I think, aligned with my values and Rotary values. The other interesting thing, and both Mano and Stacy have talked about the importance of early childhood literacy to raising good citizens. And that really became evident to me when I was co-chairing the Poverty Reduction Initiative, the Enough for All strategy, when we saw a real gap in early childhood literacy. I think that gap continues. It ought to be filled better by our school system, by our governments, but there is a gap, and I think there's a huge necessity for advocacy and support. So when Stacy presented this Dandelion Strategy to the champions a month or two ago, I readily agreed to co-chair or to vice chair a committee that would see the transition of this program to Rotary, and if approved by the board, to assist with the implementation of it. And I just see the natural alignment. We know how to run big fundraisers. We may not have enough volunteers, but Stacy has assured us that we have a solid core of volunteers who want to remain involved. So great opportunity for us to work collaboratively with people who really believe in this cause. I think the establishment of the Early Childhood Literacy Fund is critical to this. As Stacy and Manol have indicated, critically important that our kids be able to read by the time they're in grade 4, or they continue to fall behind. And the potential for them to drop through the cracks in society is enormous. So anything we can do to get that up is going to improve mental health. It's going to be, it's going to help in poverty reduction. All of those social problems that we see today, I think, can be advanced through better literacy. And I see the other thing we talk a lot about in Rotary and at major donations over the years is collaboration. And this really presents an opportunity for us as a grantor in the early childhood literacy area to look for those collaborative opportunities. So I think it really ticks a number of boxes. It has the opportunity to engage our members. It has the opportunity to attract, to retain members who are really keen on this cause, and to attract new members. So I think it ticks a number of boxes, and I'm all in on it. I think it's a fabulous opportunity to help revitalize our club and really build the Rotary brand in Calgary. So
Thank you, Steve. That's great. Yeah. And now we'll go to Randy, and maybe you can get into the weeds of, where does that fit into our club? How do we, the words early childhood literacy fund. Well, we have a community service fund as a financial vehicle. So how does all of this fit in with our club? Randy?
So I'd like to start off by, first of all, acknowledging yet again, thanking for Stacy for giving our club a tremendous opportunity here that it's practically, as I see it, almost once in a lifetime opportunity for really to make an impact through Rotary. And, the alignment that I see is, from the member surveys that we conducted, Calgary Reads aligns directly with the literacy needs the club members have stated that need financial support in the community. So I'm going to talk just briefly about sort of a vision and then get a little bit into the weeds. The way we opportunity to look at this is, as I see it, and members have spoken, we can create a literacy legacy for Rotary in the community. It's an opportunity to build a foundation that Calgary Reads has set and has been presented to the club. It's an opportunity to have members, like Steve said, engaged in fundraising, fellowship through the book sale, participate in strategic planning, funding decisions and programs along the way, and to really try and build out that legacy for Rotary. So tremendous opportunity for engagement with Rotary members. It's an opportunity within the club for Rotary committees to work together, from legacy projects, communications, fundraising, membership, adult literacy hubs, to help create and work with the Early Childhood Literacy Committee, which would be formed, and to work together to create a legacy. It's an opportunity for other Rotary clubs to participate. And then as programs through this pillar or foundation of literacy gets built out, I see there being philanthropic opportunities for club members who wish to engage from that perspective directly. We'll be able to choose our strategic corporate partners as programs get developed. And this should set a platform to attract new members as we are building support for a cause, which is appealing to potential younger members. And that's what studies show, that younger generation, I'm just looking to see if there's any here in the younger generation, are saying they want to support, and studies show that. So if we want to bridge the generation gap and attract new members, this creates that great opportunity to build a platform to support causes which will attract them. And so really it's working with fellow Rotarians in collaboration for a common cause. So where we see this fitting is under the community service portfolio. Early Childhood Literacy Committee would be established and reside alongside Adult Literacy Committee under community services. It's a natural fit to have the two literacy arms for Rotary under fundamentally the same, we'll call it literacy umbrella. The process will be call for volunteers to sit on the committee, and that's exciting for members to be part of a program in the club from the beginning right through potentially establishing a legacy program. From a technical perspective, really it'll hold its own budget line items, with the revenues from book sales coming in, offset against the other areas of distribution from those sales, distribution of funds for those sales, from those sales. And the integration, I think, is really, really important, and that process is really important. So committee, just to give you some formality around it, we see is there will be a committee structure set up. Terms of reference will be developed by the committee, approved by the board. We will set to ensure processes and continuity guidelines and procedures for running the committee will be developed, along with necessary policies, things like conflict of interest policies, funding, and that's in alignment with the other committees who are responsible for investing the club's funds. And so there will be alignment there. There will be funding criteria and evaluation process will be developed for projects being funded. And the strategic plan for creating the legacy I see will be developed as well. And that will provide continuity over the years as the program grows and the integration of the program into Rotary grows. And from a diligence perspective, we're going through a very detailed asset transfer responsibility checklist that was provided by Stacy and her group. And so as we go through that process, it creates the platform for the diligence that is required to make sure that everything is in place through the transfer if it gets approved, and making sure whatever agreements are in place that need to be in place. And so it's very detailed. So there's a lot of diligence that is going through this, but the biggest thing is the other big thing is, again, the opportunity that it creates to Rotary to create, and I'm just going to call it a literacy legacy through Calgary, with Calgary Reads, through Calgary Reads in the community, and make a direct impact into the community. So it's, that's kind of where it'll fit in as we see it into Rotary.
Super. Thank you very much, Randy and Steve and Stacy. So now let's open it up for questions. What is going through your mind, or just comments even? And just raise your hand using the reactions button. Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I was sort of noting a number of questions here, and so rather than try to do them one by one, maybe I'll just say what they are, and then somebody can make a note and answer them. One, my thoughts are about why is Calgary Reads disbanding as a organizing? Is it because there's no funding available anymore, or are you just worn out? That's one question. Why was there another one? Why was there seem to be a very little promo this year on the Calgary Reads book sale, which there usually is? But now, getting down to my real question, as I look at the ongoing successes in the Rotary Club of Calgary, they're not top down. Of course, they're bottom up a lot of the time. The Stay in School program, actually the whole functioning of our World Community Service program. Even our small donations, our foundations committee, our adult literacy, these are all things that have a champions in place that are not the 1 year or 2 year turnover that we have on our board. So what I'm looking for here is to be assured that there are champions within the club. Like by the way, I really like this. I think it does hit all the boxes. I think Steve is absolutely right. It's all the boxes. It looks fantastic to me. But my question is this: are Stacy and Steve the champions that are going to be in place to get this thing going and so on? The phrase I didn't like when I heard the comments from Randy was he said, we're going to do all this work, sort of sounds like do all this work at the board level and then call for volunteers. I want to know that there's volunteers already ready to pick up the ball and run with it, and that it's not going to be because you know, as always happens, the board turnover 2 years from now, the people who put this in place aren't involved anymore. That's a reality. So I want to know that there's a champion team that's prepared to move it forward. And what else was my other question? Oh yeah, where are the president-elect and president nominee on this? I haven't seen them at this, and I think that I want to know where they stand. So those were. Oh yeah, the other question is funding. I realize we want to put the funding toward the activities and supporting all the Dandelion aspects of the program with the other organizations, but our club always has to pay for our own office and administration. There is a percentage, small percentage that has to come out to handle that. I assume there's a percentage involved now, Stacy, and what percentage of future funding raised from the book sale is acceptable, or maximum, minimum, or whatever that we might need as a club to help support it. Having said all that, there are some questions out there, and but like I say, the bottom line is I think this is way more interesting and checking the boxes as far as engagement of people, as far as profile of the club, as far as youth and everything else, than the only other one I've seen brought forward top down lately. Anyway, that's my comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Bruce. So Stacy, did you make notes, or would you like me to rephrase the questions?
I think I've got the ones that I need would be best to answer.
Okay.
So Calgary Reads has never been in a better financial position than we are right now. So we are not going down because we're tired or we've run out of money. And that's a beautiful thing for Rotary. We are already giving each of our seed partners a $5,000 check on June 29th, just to have been involved in conversations with us, because we know the value of people's time. Because the sale is looking to be very successful, we also, I have in my budget, when we close the door, that probably at least $50,000 is going to be needed to rebrand the sale, to buy new aprons, to get new signage. All this Calgary Reads paraphernalia will have to be transferred to Rotary, and it's my intention that you will have that from these proceeds. So there is no sort of outlay for the expenses, and everything that's raised next year becomes part of that early childhood fund. We also have a $25,000 sponsor that is committed for the next 3 years, which is another chunk of change that supports the operations. Like there are costs, right? Whether it's renting bold signs or whatever that is. So that's Calgary Reads is, and the one reason that most people don't think of Calgary Reads was born out of the Junior League of Calgary, a service club such as the Rotary. And we can no longer run our charitable sector because off the backs of nice white ladies, which is essentially who I am and what has run a big chunk of the sector. I have never been able to provide benefits to my staff. We are all underpaid because we are privileged. And in today's day and age of diversity and inclusion, Calgary Reads should not be allowed to run off of the backs of people of privilege. And this is a big part of why I just won't play the game anymore. And when every charity should be bold enough to go out of business when they recognize they cannot meet the need, and we are not able to meet the demand. So there are other people that should take responsibility. And as long as I've been a part of the sector, they deflect responsibility to us in ways that are inappropriate. And I want to be able to hold our education system accountable. One other very exciting piece, which I think is going to be key to the engagement of membership, when you wrap yourself around a cause, you need to learn about the cause. So it's my hope that there's an education component for the club as well, so that members really understand why they would want to give their time and energy to this very important cause. And we just found out yesterday that we have a $500,000 funder who's going to pay for our literacy lab in 2024. Steve, you don't even know this yet.
Yeah, fantastic.
And this gives Rotary an unbelievable platform to be able to say, we are part of changing this system for the betterment of children. And a part of that is also going, anyways, it's a beautiful, I think Randy said, thanks for, this is the offer of a lifetime. Everybody wants this thing and everybody wants to be associated with it. So I'm glad, Randy, that you recognize it. The other question, Manon and Madeline were the very first people that we took this to. So Madeline is behind all this. She has not been in the mix, I would say, because she was traveling. And Manon, you can probably add to that.
Yes, I think.
Chime in because I think the link from bottom up to top down, Bruce, Stacy and her husband Brian are pretty new members.
Yeah, we're at the very bottom.
And they joined Rotary. I believe they joined Rotary because of the relationship, that the long relationship that Major Donations has had with Rotary, and that goes all the way back to our Stay in School program. And then when Stacy mentioned it to me with the Champions meeting a couple of months ago, as I say, I was all in. And so I think we do, we brought Randy in, we brought others in. Catherine's been involved, Bill Redmond's been involved with this. I think there is that opportunity, and I'm certainly committed I have been probably disenchanted with Rotary for the last couple of years. I've been involved with other things. This has got me excited again. I really think there's a great opportunity for us and our club, and so I'm in, and I know Stacy's in and wants us to succeed. And this literacy lab in a few years is a great thing for us to point to and to really work towards making that successful.
Thanks, Steve. I haven't chatted with Craig, our president nominee, yet on that. And with regards to the administrative costs for this, of course, as Randy alluded to, there would be in our budget, of course, there's the income from the sale, but then there would also be the expenses from the sale, and the admin costs would be borne out of what we're making on the sale. Is there anything else to add to that, Randy?
No, I think that covers for now, the financial piece of it. I just want to as well, an important question Bruce asked is, board level versus ground up. This is and maybe it wasn't explained entirely clearly. The formation of the Early Childhood Literacy Committee. I mean, we've got Champion, Stacy, and Steve. That'll be the foundation of how things move through and build in the organization. It's what was presented was really some guidelines, but of which, how can I say, guidelines for the formation of a committee as it relates to fitting into Rotary. The actual formation and vision will come out of the groundwork that the Early Childhood Literacy Committee will develop from the ground up. And so they will be involved absolutely right from the start as we move through the process. And they'll get more involved as the process evolves. And then that will then lead to further engagement as those discussions reach out to the fellow Rotary members. And so for sure, the biggest piece is that formation of the Early Childhood Literacy Committee, which is right at the heart of members who would like to join, can become part of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Let's
think
move.
you've
Yep.
answered most, pretty much all my questions, and I thank you very much, and great answers, Stacy and Steve and Randy, and the one thing that I will add, which I didn't bring up, but I'm really happy to be involved with something that also relates closely to one of my favorite country music singers, Dolly Parton. Fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
I did go to see her in Montreal at the Rotary International Convention in 2010, I guess, and she was doing her childhood literacy thing back then, and still is, and has spent probably hundreds of millions, if not certainly tens of millions, doing that, and anything we can do to move that along here would be great.
Okay, thank you very much, Bruce. Okay, Joe and then Tom.
You're on mute, Joe.
You made it, Joe.
Myself. Yeah, thank you, Manon. Stacy, thank you very much for that overview. I've always admired what Calgary Reads seems to do in the community from a distance. The closest I get to it on a regular basis is giving books and buying the odd books back. But certainly, as others have said, this potential partnership checks off a lot of the boxes that Rotary stands for and our club stands for. Just so I understand the nuts and bolts of things, while you were doing your presentation, Stacy, I went on your website, or on the Calgary Reads website. So do I understand it that there is no full-time paid staff that runs this organization? And that's one simple question. And then really the Coles Notes version of the finances, that in terms of the expenses and what Calgary Reads does with the excess funds it raises through the book sale, where that goes and how that's accounted for. And that's one question. Second one is, in your comments, you said there's a volunteer base of 1,200 and a organizing committee of 10. So I'm assuming this organizing committee of 10 are people who've been around for a number of years with organizing the book sale. Would they be coming over, or are they ready to pass the baton over to someone else?
Yeah, so Calgary Reads annual budget is about $1.5 million to $2 million annually. So the book sale is a percentage of the proceeds that we require. We do have staff, and all of the staff, except for myself, will transfer over to the organizations that are accepting the programs. Programs only run with great people, so they will all be employed. For the book sale, we try to keep the costs for the book sale at about 10% of proceeds. So when we, the very first year, we've been doing this sale for 18 years. The very first year we did it in CBC's garages, and we raised $5,000, and we probably spent $50. Now we spend much more, on average about $30,000 would be our last. It varies a little bit when you need to buy new banners and, some of those kinds of costs, but on average, it's about 10% of the revenue that we assume. We have one staff person, Dawn, and it has been our recommendation in the proposal that we took to the board that the book bank receive a portion of the funding each year when you're dispersing, so that Dawn, who will be working at the Little Red Reading House and the book bank, can take that month and serve as sort of the hub of all the volunteers that work around her. And that would be built into the proceeds of the sale, and it would be built into what we transfer to Rotary this year. And the committee, they have been operating for about a decade together now, and we have amazing co-chairs. They do so much work that I now give them an honorarium for the huge amount of time. So that's factored into our budget as well. All three of them, Tammy, Shirley, and Dawn, are very willing to spend next year in a transition phase where Rotary is learning all the details, and we have a lot of things documented. And so far to date, any of our suppliers, it's our hope that they will transfer as well, because again, they are connected to the cause. So the Stuffa trucks, for instance, Highway 9, or I think that's what they're called, they provide these big trucks for us to put in the parking lot to accept donations. So there are some in-kind as well that we receive, and we don't have any sense that some of those would not continue.
Along the lines of volunteers or staffing, Stacey, do you have an idea of how long, like that organizing team does, those 10 people, that is a tremendous amount of work. Any idea of how long they want to continue doing this, given that the only thing that changes is the word, instead of Calgary, it becomes Rotary, but we still do the same thing for the same cause? Do you have a sense of that?
I think it will all depend on how Rotary integrates into the committee. If Rotary comes in and says, oh, we know better, we know how to do this, I'm not saying that would be the case, but people will stay on. I know they've been hanging around for a long time already. If they feel valued, if they truly feel like we're working collaboratively with them, I don't see any of them leaving because they love books. Typically, they start meeting in January. They have one meeting a month from January until the sale. So it's not onerous because it's a bit of a machine now. The biggest negotiation when we started this book sale, the curling club gave us that space for free. We now pay about $20,000 in rent for the duration of our time on site at the club. And I think that would be one of the first conversations that we would want to have, is to secure it so that next year we're in the same location and not much changes other than the name and potentially the media sponsor. CBC's been our media partner. Well, that was one of Bruce's other questions too. This year, we actually had global CTV and CBC all on camera, on TV, on radio, and they don't usually play together at all. So CBC, we did get a little bit last week of less of a call out because Angela Knight was on holidays, and Angela is really the champion of this sale within the CBC. They are no longer really able to sponsor things like this. So that is, we will not likely have the involvement of CBC to the degree that we have in the past, because their Toronto office has changed sponsorship rules. They agreed to come in because they knew it was Calgary Reads' sort of last big book sale. But others have expressed interest, and I think they would jump on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Stacy. Is that cool, Joe? You're good?
Yeah, thanks very much. It answered everything, but just back to the nut of it. So the name, we would not inherit the name Calgary Reads. It would be whatever it would be. Is that correct?
At first, we thought about continuing to call it Calgary Reads Big Book Sale, but then we really think that will confuse the community, because we will no longer exist as a charity. So our recommendation is it becomes the Rotary Reads Big Book Sale. So you keep a little bit of familiarity in the name, but Rotary gets to come out front, really front and center on the brand.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Joe and Stacy and Tom. Go ahead.
I like the potential upside of the connections with the public and other clubs. I think that would be great. And I also like that this information is coming out early. I have a question for you, Manon. What sort of reaction have you got so far? Are you getting a highly positive reaction or questions, or what's happening so far?
I get a positive reaction from Rotarians. There's the questions of, how does this fit in? How we now grow into having a cause, as opposed to having a committee that's around like major donations, like that. The description of that committee is about the amount of money. The same thing with small donations. But if we look at World Community Service, that's a cause, right? International causes. This becomes another cause. So people are wondering, how does adding another cause fit into our club? Of course, it fits in beautifully. It's one of the areas of focus. And of course, it has an impact on all kinds of things. The other comment I'm getting is, will we have enough volunteers for this? And I pair that with the comments that I received from volunteers at the event. Are you guys going to, just what Stacy said before, could we still volunteer for this? And are you going to still honor early childhood literacy as the recipient of these funds? And the assurance I get, certainly from the volunteers' perspective, is we're in. You keep the cause the same, you channel the funds the same way, we're in. So I go back to Rotarians, I go, you simply now become part of this big thing. And now everybody walks around with a big Rotary logo on their back or on their apron instead of a Calgary Reads logo. So it's getting positive acceptance by the club so far. I haven't heard anything negative. Like, I'm trying to poke holes in this thing and I'm having a hard time doing it.
Good. This year was the first year I went, and I looked at parking and I went, boy, how does this huge crowd get here? There's no parking. Can you go over a block or two and find parking, or what happens?
The city of the lot that, as you drive down Memorial Drive before you would get to the curling club, there's a great big city lot. I think it's lot 59. They actually give us that lot at no cost. So people can park for free. Parking is always problematic. I was saying to Manon, this is a piece that Rotary could be in charge of the parking strategy, because we do need more parking. That is the downside of the curling club.
Is this lot just east of the club?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, where the field of crosses is.
Yep.
Yeah.
The problem on, I think it was Friday, was Red Dress Day. And there was an Indigenous celebration happening in the Field of Crosses. So we did have a bit of congestion during that time because of 2 events, but that's not ever happened at the same time before.
So my attitude is keep this proceeding forward. I imagine there's a kind of NPSC meeting group that's digging into this, and I would say just, yeah, keep digging.
Yeah, that's exactly the purpose of the town hall, so we can have a better feel of what club members are sensing around this. And of course, it doesn't have to go to the club for a vote because it's not a multi-year legacy project. That's the only thing that comes back to the club, but it needs to be discussed and voted at the board meeting. So if you feel strongly about this either way, please send your comments to the board. You can send it to me and address it to the board. I'll forward it to the board. And of course, this is being recorded right now. So I will be sending the recordings to the board so that they have, they can hear more information, because of course we have no board members here today. And I don't know if it will go to a vote in May or June. Of course, we would like to proceed as quickly as possible because of course Calgary Reads wants to be able to say, you know, the Rotary Club of Calgary is going to continue as opposed to hopes to continue the book sale. But we do recognize that we need to proceed with the right amount of time so that we've done our due diligence in examining all of the aspects of this amazing opportunity. Any other questions, Tom? Oh, sorry, Randy.
Oh, no, if I could just add, if you have questions as well as you're sending to the board as an incoming board member, if you could send them to me as well, and I can help address those questions, just to make sure that they all get covered. So
Right.
if you wouldn't mind including me on that, and I can help get you answers if they're.
Yep. Okay, Trevor.
Just one question, maybe for Stacy. With the dispersal of the literacy groups to like 4 or 5 groups, was there any discussion or thought about kind of a coordinating or a group over the whole literacy thing, so we're not stepping on each other's toes or working at cross purposes, so that each one of the, you know, Rotary and then the Mount Royal and all that are kind of working in sync together? Was there any discussion about how that will be handled?
Yeah, we have contracted the Center for Community Prosperity and the Trico Changemaker Lab, and they will follow these seed partners, Rotary included, over the next year with a comprehensive evaluation to determine if this strategy is indeed proving to be successful, because things are growing and have transitioned appropriately. And representatives from each of the partners are, that is a requirement of them receiving our asset, is that they participate in this collaborative process. We also are writing a case support that will be published next year around the Dandelion Strategy as a possible option for social sector agencies rather than merger. So there will be a lot of times to bring the partners together to really understand and build relationships between each other. And yeah, you're right, Trevor. It's really important that these partners understand that they're not each unique and separate things, that they have to cohesively take over the role that Calgary Reads used to play. And I really do believe that people will. We've been very deliberate in who we've selected.
Thank you. Again, I think it's a good proposal, and I'm very encouraged by it. So thank you.
Okay, Catherine, do you have any comments? What's your perspective on this?
I've just been listening with great interest. I think they're very perceptive questions, because the details are very important, that they're worked out beforehand. But I think it's a marvelous project with great opportunities for the younger Rotarians. So I don't have any questions at the moment, but I just endorse the idea as being super.
Thank you very much. McDonald's, any comments from you guys?
Just positive thoughts, really. It really seems to fit with what my idea of something that Rotary could be well involved in. And I must say, Stacy, the way you've been able to
Whoops, it looks like she froze. I don't know if she's frozen for everybody else.
Yeah.
I'll ask her to repeat when they come back. That's too bad. I was interested in what she's gonna say.
answer all the questions. Our internet.
Yeah, we had a connection hiccup. Can you please repeat mostly all of that?
Oh, sorry. It's our internet that is poor out here. So no, just positive. I'm impressed with what the proposal is, and I just said to stay.
Oh, shoot. Oh. I'll ask her to email me her comments so that we have a well-rounded response from everybody. Yeah, it looks like that's done. Okay, are there any concluding comments from anybody? Does anybody want a last word in? I see it's 1:31. Yes, go ahead, Tom.
I think the key is what kind of reaction you're getting from the members and whether a whole bunch of people want to step up as the champions and committee, as Bruce mentioned early in the meeting. I think that's the key thing here.
Yeah.
Not having thought about it a lot, but we've got to have the membership on board for sure.
So how many of you would consider taking 1 or 2 shifts at the book sale?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's going to be a key indicator if we can get volunteers to jump in. Of course.
My wife has already said she's going to volunteer. She's happy to volunteer, but I couldn't get her to sit in on the on this. She said, no, I'm going to do it, but
Awesome.
I don't need to know the superstructure. I just want to.
Yeah, I just want to be there. Yeah.
She's just one of those other, like the people that were there selling the books. She loves books and she reads a lot. And so we were there on Friday buying a few books, and yeah.
Good. Okay.
Oh, and what? Oh,
Yes.
and Tom, were you volunteering, Tom, to be on the committee?
Me?
Was
No.
the question was to be volunteering for the, I know his question was to volunteer for the sale, no?
Right. That
Oh,
was
okay.
for the sale. Once you get them in the sale, then you get them to be part of the committee. It's a slow process, which is why I asked how long would those volunteer organizers like to stay on, because you just don't take over something like this. It's enormous. You have to
No,
work
I think very
alongside
much.
for many years until, and I mean, if they want to stay on, why not? Why not?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't see this as a takeover.
No, absolutely
Yeah, it's
not.
integrating. Yeah.
And the only thing I could see of using Rotary for these volunteers would be to create a Rotary community corps out of all of those volunteers. They become part of it. There is such thing, if you didn't know, there is such thing as a Rotary community corps. They're a single purpose group of individuals who volunteer alongside Rotarians. So check that up. It's a formal program of Rotary. And then we invite them to be part of the Rotary community corps there. And nothing else changes, nothing else.
A little bit would have to change because this committee currently does not, for instance, make decisions about where the funding goes. So there would need to be a subcommittee of the committee that is responsible for setting criteria, reviewing proposals, all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's the new piece. The other piece that I think Rotary would really want to come to understand, we have on average at least 20 corporate teams that come out to volunteer. And whoever is sort of responsible for Rotarian recruitment would want to be really clear on which corporations have been really engaged in the sale, because that becomes a good body of corporate memberships.
No kidding.
I think there are ways that Rotary could be linked in a way that could be advantageous to the spread, if you will, of the opportunities that are provided in this opportunity.
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 1:35, I think it was an hour and 5 minutes well spent. And I want to thank everybody for your participation, your questions, your presentations. And we look forward to sharing how we move forward with this at future club meetings and perhaps on the COG. So thanks again, everybody. Have a
Thanks,
wonderful
everybody.
afternoon.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you again soon.
You bet. Thank you.